Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. We've been brought back to reality here in Northern Ontario. If we're ever in doubt where we live, we just have to wait. The weather will kindly remind us. Manette, how are you? You're number one on the hit parade this morning. Kathy, good morning. Lori Lee from Ventura, California. Rosalinda, Niagara Falls. And Nancy, good morning. Mary, how are you? Adeline. And Zian, bonjour. Sue, good morning. Wendy from Markham. Babika, good morning. And John, how is you? Another Zian from Ottawa, Frida, and Liz, Elise, and another Lori, good morning. Nick from our staff, and Deed, how are you? Donna, Newfoundland. Wanda, Virginia. As soon as I see Wanda, I know it's from Virginia. Cheryl, Carrie, Nebraska. Milika, Stouffville, Suzanne, good morning. And Elizabeth. Okay. Teresa. And Doc McEwen. How are you, Doc? Good to have you on with us. Trinity, how are you, Trinity? We appreciate Kidachu. How are you? Stephanie. Thanks for coming on, Yvonne. Mary. And Donna from Bell Valley. Karen. How are you? Len and Judy, Edmonton, Alberta. Yvonne, Alberta. And Greta. How are you? John from Elgin. Oh no, John, how are you? Norma, Texas. Another Norma. Two Normas in a row. Linda, how are you? And Cheryl, West Virginia. Oh, I want to sing so badly. Gary. Heather. Mira, she writes it out. Mira Mashi. Fran, Tilsonburg. Addie, how are you? And I missed someone from Newfoundland. Mara. Leanne, good morning, guys. I don't see Kevin. Now, did he put his name up there? Alma, Jackie, good morning. Dorothy. Something's happening. I can't see Kevin unless he's not on. And Deborah, Jeanette, how are you? Good to have you. Elizabeth. Okay, where did our hot days go? Yeah. Alan, Ruth Ann, and Terry, good morning. Okay, now. I listened to an interview and, my son is very, very smart. I think you guys know that. He's the brains of the operation, okay? I always say that. He's more like his mother than me. And Tony Jr. Was explaining artificial intelligence, okay? Coming to a theater near you. And he was just showing it to me. And guys, incredible. Like, I mean, what? Like, you got to understand, guys, I'm a dinosaur, okay? So when it comes to computers, and I mean, I can barely turn them on, never mind try and figure them out. But there's a whole new thing coming. Actually, there was an interview last night on TV that I watched a little bit of, and was Elon Musk talking about the dangers of artificial intelligence, okay? So I don't want to get into that, but they call it AI, okay? AI. But I want to leap to another AI. Okay? Now you guys, I don't think you even have a clue what I'm talking about. Okay, so we know artificial intelligence and they call it AI. But what I want to bring to you today is artificial insemination. Okay? Now, why is that significant? Why is that important? Well, it's really important going forward. Okay? And I want to tell you why. Okay? But let me read an article looking into the future, and it's bleak. It's bleak as far as children, having children. Listen to this article. By the year 2045, okay? 2045, okay? So that's going to be out of my territory, okay? But by the year 2045, this article, looking into the future, said most couples by the year 2045 will need AI. They will need AI. And not artificial intelligence, but artificial insemination in order to have a baby. Okay? Now that's a scary thing. And the question is, why? Why? Okay? So why are couples going to need artificial insemination in order to have children? Most couples, according to this, forward-looking study, it's saying because of the low level of sperm count in men. Now, I'll give you a little bit of statistics that they provided, okay? Since 1973, okay, and this is only going to the year 2011, sperm counts in men are down 59, let's give it 60%. Why? Because I'm a why guy. When I read stuff, and they're not even saying why. The article doesn't say why. They just say, here's what's happening now, and what is going to, if this trend continues, the downward numbers of sperm count in men, we're in deep trouble. We're in deep trouble. Okay? Now, why? Okay? So, the key for men is their manly hormone. It's called testosterone. Okay? Testosterone. And that is plummeting, sinking, big time. And I've been screaming about this for a long time. Because what I used to do in the office is measure testosterone. And most men are low. They're low in testosterone. They, I've said this, countless times, that men, when they hit 50, often have more estrogen than their wives. And that should never, ever be the case. Now, we know as a woman, it starts to hit those menopausal years, of course their estrogen is going down. But women have big time trouble with too much estrogen, even in menopause, post-menopause. Because women, it's a different baby altogether. Women, it's balance. It's estrogen always, always, always in comparison to progesterone, pro-baby, progesterone, pro-baby, estrogen, pro-woman, makes you a woman. Is man supposed to have any estrogen? Yeah, not much. And today, we live in an estrogen-dominated world. And we'll get into that. But this is a scary thing, guys. You know, just like Elon Musk was talking about AI, artificial intelligence, it's the new thing coming. I don't think you're going to be able to slow it down. And he's concerned about it. And probably rightly so. It's going to make a lot of jobs obsolete. Like Tony Jr. was just showing me some of the stuff it can do. Wow. It's unreal. And, you know, my brain, you know, is slow to process stuff like that. But, hey, think in my lifetime, okay, what I've seen change, you know, compared to my grandmother, her lifetime, what she saw probably was astounding, okay, you know, but like us, everything changes so fast, it's incredible, right? But, you know, it's not always progress. Like artificial intelligence might be some, you know, progress. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is artificial insemination isn't progress. The fact that men have low testosterone isn't progress. It's the result of our lifestyle. It's the result of our lifestyle. We men live in a different world. Now we need to be very, very careful and cognizant of these things. It's important. You know, like I always say, like information is power, man. It's power. It can be very powerful. You give someone information, they go, well, you know what? I'm going to take care of that. Okay? Now, the good news is I just had my testosterone levels checked. Thank God. But guys, I work on it. I work on it. It just doesn't happen by osmosis. Like it's something, testosterone. Of course, as we get older, it's natural to lose testosterone in a man. And ladies, you know, because women used to, you know, they get their hormones tested and they go, Doc, what is my testosterone? Who cares? If your testosterone is up in a woman, that's because your estrogen is dominant. You know, I used to get women with hairs on their, you know, chinny chin. And I said, well, your testosterone's up, but I'm not worried about your testosterone as long as I can get your estrogen down. Elevate your progesterone. You're estrogen dominant. But in a man, it's really important to get that testosterone up. Testosterone affects your brain in a man. Testosterone affects your brain. Testosterone affects your heart. Testosterone affects your sex life. Testosterone affects your muscles. Testosterone affects your bones. That is man's primary hormone. And most men, it's sinking like the Titanic. And, you know, again, most doctors, not all, but most, they don't even look at it. And you know what? if they actually test it, I looked at a testosterone test yesterday. Somebody emailed it to me. And I said, because it said high. I said, gee, that ain't high. That's not high. Because it's just normal, average testing. I said, that's not normal. And this person had all the symptoms of low testosterone. Okay? And so I said, well, that's way too low. I'm sorry. I know it says normal, or it even said high. And it was like nowhere near optimized, in my opinion. Just based on my experience with it. So we live in a different world. Got it? Yeah, we live in a different world. So let's look at some of the factors of low testosterone. I think it's important to go over this. Okay, and ladies, take notes, because men usually don't. I like picking on men. Why? Because I am one. And men are stubborn, generally. Most men that came to my office, they were dragged in there by their wives. They didn't, because nothing bothered, what's the matter? Nothing. How you feeling? Good. And the only time I really got the truth is when their wife was sitting beside them. I often invited their wife to come in, because then I get the whole truth. What do you mean you're feeling good? You're not feeling good. You fall asleep on the couch. I got to tell, I'm just thinking of a funny story. Okay, so look, this is a true story in my office. Okay, so there was a couple sitting there, and the guy was really, he was embarrassed. Okay, because I tested his testosterone. I mean, it didn't show up on the Richter scale at all. I mean, it was like 0. And the wife said, yeah, And I said to the guy, okay, in the office, I said, I can help you with that, okay? And his wife, without skipping a beat, his wife said, don't help him with that. I'm done with those days. I'm telling you guys, she was talking about their sex life, and she said, I'm done, don't help them. I was on the ground laughing, dying. I said, I can help you. And she said, don't help them. Okay. True story. True story. What are some of the factors in low testosterone? Okay. One of them is body fat. Okay. So you see the fat behind me there. Okay. You can see it. And for those listening on a podcast, visualize my 5 pounds of fat that I got right up above my shoulder there, and visualize that. Okay, so you have that inside your body. You know what that attracts? Estrogen. Estrogen is attracted to that. Okay? In men and women. Okay? Estrogen is attracted to fat. And we live in an estrogen-dominant world. Let me tell you about xenoestrogens. Of course, you know all about them, but again, there's just in plastics, okay? Xenoestrogen plastic. 500 million tons are produced annually. 95% of people that get their blood work done for PCBs or whatever, it's in their blood. And if you take a urine test, 95% of the population, children, doesn't matter who you are, you have these chemicals, these plastics, and they mimic estrogen. That's why they're called xenoestrogens. So air fresheners, hand sanitizers, sunscreen, all the chemical cleaners in your house, all the air fresheners, all the sprays, all the whatever. Guys, I'm telling you, you are not getting away from it. Okay? From Costa Rica, because people tell me they're going to Costa Rica to get away from the real world. No, you're not. Mount Everest to the placenta. That's just the way it is, guys. We live in that world. I'm not saying that it's not burying our head in the sand. All I'm saying is you're not getting away from that. No wonder men's testosterone is down here and estrogen is up here. And no, even in women, their estrogen goes through the roof. And they go, well, I'm menopausal. What do you mean my estrogen's high? My doctor said my estrogen was low. Yeah, but you're still dominant compared to progesterone. That'll mess you up. Low testosterone in men. Major crisis. Artificial insemination is coming. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have babies. Imagine that. What a crazy world. But it's reality. High body fat, number one. I mean, they're not necessarily in order. The number two is, I talked about high estrogen, and high body fat, xenoestrogens, poor diet. Yeah. You know what? We just don't consume enough protein. Did you read our email today about protein? How important it is? And people just don't get enough of it. Or their sources of protein are poor. They're poor in their bioavailability. Like plant proteins, okay, it's not that they're bad, it's just that they're not the best. And when you get protein from wheat and, like breads and noodles, and there's some protein in there, but that's for mice. Not for you. It's not enough. Protein is the king of the castle, and carbs are the dirty rascals. And people don't eat enough protein. They always, Doc, am I eating too much protein? I always hear that. I always hear, especially when it comes to kidneys. Am I eating too much protein? No, not even by a long shot. It's not even close. No, it's just not. Poor diet, lots of sugar. You know what sugar does? Sugar, men, destroys your testosterone. It lowers it. Poor sleep. Hey, 70% of the population have some kind of sleep disorder. And sleep apnea. I'm telling you, I never heard of sleep apnea in the 1970s. It probably was around, but nobody even talked about it. You couldn't get a textbook talking about sleep apnea in the 70s or the 80s even. I started talking about sleep disturbances when I wrote the book on chronic fatigue syndrome. It was one of the major symptoms of chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia was sleep disorders. And I always knew what it was because it was attached to the adrenal glands, the stress glands. So poor sleep lowers testosterone. High stress, they go together. High stress, poor sleep. Your cortisol is up, you don't sleep so well. Cortisol is a wake-up hormone. Cortisol is the fight or flight. Cortisol is gets you ready, and it elevates your blood sugar. It elevates your blood pressure. It's meant to do that, but on a temporary basis. And today we live in a world that is stress, not only stress from bad food, not only stress from the environment, but I mean emotional stress. We live in a world today that, there's too much, I love information, but sometimes it's just too much. Social media, TV, and, yada, 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 from family to family dynamics, or you name it, like it's coming at you at 100 miles an hour today. And we have so many people that are canaries in the coal mine. They're just, they're sensitive, and it's hard, and stress just knocks them for a real loop. But that will elevate estrogen. It will lower testosterone in men. They don't sleep properly. They don't get into the 5 stages of sleep, which are really significant for a lot of things. Here's one, okay? Poor muscle quality. Yeah. One of the biggest factors in testosterone, you see it on one side, the fat, okay? But on the other side of the equation is muscle. Muscle. Why do you think we're into vitamin E so much? And it's not just moving. This is very specific. You want to build muscle. Ladies and gentlemen, muscle is a key metabolic part of your anatomy. Remember, muscle, the more muscle you have, the more bins you have. Bins for what, Doc? Bins for storing glucose. Okay? Now, someone said this to me the other day, and you need glucose. I said, nah, you don't, because your body will take a piece of steak and make glucose if it needs it. Okay? But all food gets turned to energy, to glucose. All of it. Okay? Except that. But you want bins to store that glucose. Okay? So if your steak is being turned into, and guys, the key too, by the way, let me just say it because people will be coming at me. It's at the rate of speed that food breaks down is the key to insulin. So, okay, I had to just say it because they're good questions. Well, Doc, if everything turns to glucose for energy, why don't I just eat glucose? Because you're going to wear your pancreas out. It's much better to eat steak because it's a slow burning. I've told you many times about the wood stove. That analogy. Pretend you got a log cabin and you want to heat it. It's cold like it is in Northern Ontario this morning. You want to start a fire. Okay, you might use a little paper, but you don't burn paper to heat up your log cabin, do you? No, you use logs. Steak is logs. cheese is logs. Eggs are logs. They burn slow. They burn better. It's a better fuel. Anyway, back to muscles. Muscles, okay, muscles are storage bins. Really important, okay? So metabolically, muscles, okay, store. They're storage bins. And when you work out, yeah, you build bigger bins, plus you got more storage space. Therefore, you're taking a lot of pressure off what organ? What pressure are you taking off the organ, the other storage bin? The Costco parking lot. Your liver. So the better your muscles are, the bigger the bins are, the more you got storage capacity, it takes that enormous pressure off the liver. And you know, it's almost like you have to teach this to nutritionists. You have to teach it to physicians, dietitians. They don't see the liver connection. And that if you don't see the liver connection, it's unreal, because then you miss the whole thing on metabolic syndrome. Anyway, metabolic syndrome is part of this testosterone thing. It's a huge part of it, because when muscles don't have the capacity to store, testosterone sinks big time. And today, we have men that don't have enough testosterone. And here's another big factor, okay? Here's another big factor. So you have the environment, you have weight, especially fat tissue, you have stress, you have sleep, a lack of it, and you have vitamin E, a lack of steel, okay? And then another huge factor, and this is huge as far as testosterone goes, is low levels of vitamin D. Low levels of vitamin D. Okay? Yeah. This is a universal problem. People are scared of the sun. They don't get, and by the way, well, look, if you live in Northern Ontario, hey, you live anywhere now. People don't get in the sun. They can live in Florida and have low levels of vitamin D. It shouldn't be, but they do, because they're scared. The boogeyman. The sun is the boogeyman. And you can hardly sit beside people on the beach. They got so much spray on. And they lather themselves up. And they disrupt. And those are all chemicals. Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy. Vitamin D. And 80-90% are in the low end. And when you have low levels of vitamin D, my friend, Mr. Sir, you're not going to have optimized levels of testosterone. You need vitamin D to make testosterone. Yeah. It's a huge factor. And, you know, today we live in a crazy world, guys. I am not out. By the way, I'm not out to change the world. I'm not. Okay? Because I would be frustrated every day. They're not listening. No, I'm out to change you. And you can change, maybe, the people that you can influence. You, as a little disciple, you have information. Now, you can bring a horse to water. You can't necessarily make them drink it, but you can sure add salt to it, make it interesting, make them thirsty for it, and maybe they'll say, well, you know what? My life isn't that good. I don't feel that good. Men, like they're not men, real men. They're sinking, and, maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll listen. In my office, I used to tell them, every one of them, I can't go home with you. I can't implement the changes. You have to do it. Now, I always used to try and encourage, build a support team around you. Why do you think we wanted this private Facebook group? Why do you think I'm out here every day pumping up tires? Because I want people to change their minds, and we have tens of thousands. I gotta tell you, okay, just in my practice days, I had tens of thousands of people who listened. I had some that didn't, some that got discouraged, some that when I was telling them the plan, I always told people this: I'm going to give you a plan to succeed, not to fail. Okay? I'm going to give you a plan to succeed. This plan I'm giving you to change your life, to change your health, is a plan for success, not a plan to fail. And we're going to help you. I can't go home with you, but we got a support team, and we're going to help you. We're going to give you the tools, but it's up to you to implement them. Okay? There's no magic. It's not magic. Health isn't magic. The 3 Ds: desire, determination, and discipline. Okay? I preach that a lot too. Okay. Guys, we love you. Okay, I see articles like this, and it just, I get taken aback. Like, are you kidding me? Don't worry about artificial intelligence. Worry about artificial insemination. Wow. Never thought I would ever have to say that in my lifetime, but I have to. Terrible. Okay, so you have any questions? Get them ready, because I think we're going to do question and answer Thursday. I'm traveling Friday. I'm doing a conference in, where am I going? North Carolina. Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay? So, get your questions in. We'll do them Thursday. Okay? We love question and answer Fridays, but we're going to have question and answer Thursdays. Okay. Guys, we love you dearly. We'll talk to you soon.